I've made just about every hybrid training mistake in the book, and today I'm going to be sharing them with you so you don't have to. Welcome back to the Hybrid Athlete Dad podcast. Super excited that you're tuning into the show today. The topic of today's episode is going to be the hybrid training mistakes I've made and what I would be doing or what I wish I would have been doing differently. Again, thanks for tuning into today's episode. Now, before I dive into today's episode, I like to go on anything that's going on in my life, personal, fitness, nutrition, anything that I think that you may find interesting. So, kicking off today's episode, last week ended up running a half marathon. I have done so that in the last year, that'll be my third half marathon, and I've done one full marathon. So I did the one full, three halves. This was my first one I had done since November. Definitely, I'd say fitness wise, I was fine. It was more the course itself where there was just a ton of elevation change. And for me, it was about 700 feet up, 700 feet down. So it was very hilly. You go up hills, down hills, up hills, down hills. And on this particular race, miles 9, 10, 11, 12 all had pretty good, sizable hills. Ended up running it in a little over an hour and 53 minutes, about 30 seconds longer than my PR that I set back in November. But overall, it was a good race. I enjoyed it. There was quite a good turnout. It was put on. The race promoters did a great job and really enjoyed it. But yeah, definitely didn't expect those hills on 9, 10, 11, and 12 to be as big as they'd done, but ran the whole thing, completed it, and I'm happy I knocked it out of the park. Now, going into that, to give you some context, so as I've been running, I'm getting a little bit of heartburn in my chest. So about 2 weeks ago, I went to the doctor just to see what's going on. Is it just wanted to make sure it's heartburn because it's right in the middle of my chest, but not on my heart, obviously, but just the bottom of the heart spot. I don't know the exact terminology, the top of the stomach, but nonetheless, getting some heartburn, and it would only come up after I was running. So I was like, let me go to the doctor. Just hey, let me check, make sure everything is okay. So I went to the doctor. Ended up getting prescribed Prilosec. I actually haven't taken it yet because I haven't had any heartburn since I've seen the doctor. But long story short, got an EKG. The EKG came up and showed it said an abnormal variation. So I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse, not a medical technician. I don't know exactly what that means. So long story short, from that, ended up having to go to see a cardiologist. So got an appointment with the cardiologist, but it was in September. That's not going to work. So went on Friday and went to go to a walk-in cardiac care, urgent care, just to get another EKG, make sure everything's good. So I walk in, no problems at all. Go down, sit down, get my EKG, and that comes back as unclassified variation. So not sure what that means. It could just be a slight abnormality and nothing to worry about, but they want to run some blood work. I believe they were wanting to check my troponin levels. Back when I had myocarditis back in 2021, I believe my troponin levels were high, so they just wanted to rule that out. So they go through, they take the blood work, and I'm sitting in this it's almost like this little cubicle with a door. Again, it's an urgent care. It's not your typical hospital. So I'm just sitting there and happen to go on my phone and just check in for work and just make sure everything's being taken care of, and end up seeing a meeting with this new C-suite. So I believe he was the chief performance officer at our company, just a one-on-one with him and myself. I take that that's not going to be good news because we've been having quite a bit of layoffs at the company. So now I'm in this room, I'm by myself, and I can see that I have this call coming up in about 3 hours, which I have a good feeling I'm going to be laid off from my company. And then in the next room over, there's a woman who came in and she was having a literal heart attack. You could hear in her breathing. They were running all sorts of tests. They had to get her to an actual hospital, not the urgent care that I was in. I haven't been calling it too much of an ER, more of an urgent care. And that was just stressful. And then again, I'm sitting in this room knowing I'm about to lose my job in a few hours, and then knowing that I hop off that call with a gentleman from my company, losing my job. Obviously, that can be a very stressful time. So now I have to hop in the car. I have to drive 3 hours. I have to get up at 4:20 the next morning to get up and go and get my running my race. I'm still not sure on the heart issue. I have to go back to get an echocardiogram. Stress test. I actually went in this morning and got the stress test done. So it was just a lot going into the half marathon of knowing, like, okay, I lost my job of 4 years. What's it like going out there and trying to find a new job? Obviously, probably could be a stressful experience. So there's that part of it. There's the aspect of, I don't know if everything is right with my heart, which obviously when I'm running 13.1 miles, you want to make sure that everything is okay with your heart. So it was very stressful going into the event. I didn't sleep much the night before, but and was just 30 seconds slower than my PR. So happy with the race, and hopefully the stress test I did this morning will be good. The echocardiogram will be good, and everything will be back to normal. And it's funny, I haven't had heartburn in about two or 3 weeks now. So just dealing with all of that right now. But that does not mean that I'm going to put a pause on my training, on my fitness. I think I've honestly run a little bit too much this week. When I'm recording this episode, have the 4th of July holiday coming up. And when I have a holiday or something going on the end of the week, I like to front load my training. So Monday did 8 miles, Tuesday did 7 miles. And I did, the 13.1 on Saturday, so I've ran quite a bit of miles, at least for what I'm used to. So legs are a little sore today. Ended up doing leg day on Wednesday, but just did a little bit variation. Ran 2 miles on the treadmill. I was going to run 2 miles outside, but I think my legs just need a break. Pick it up again tomorrow. And I say that because when I was doing my stress test, they had me running for about 10 minutes or so on a 5.5 speed on a 22 incline percentage. So very steep. By the end of that, I was exhausted. I had already run before I went the 2 miles at the gym. So it's been an eventful week, or it's 5 days or so. Honestly, it hasn't been too long, but not to give you too much of a sob story, anything that's going on. But I want to now dive into today's episode, which again is hybrid training mistakes I've made and what I do differently. For those of you who are just tuning into the show for the very first time, what is hybrid training? For me, that means a mix of strength training and endurance training. Right now, I'm strength training about 5 days a week, and I'm running about 30 miles a week, whether that takes 5 days or 6 days. Some of my past goals that I've mentioned in some of my training objectives, if I could get that word out correctly, have been running a marathon, doing half marathons, have been certain strength trainings, such as wanting to deadlift 400 pounds, to doing a triathlon, to do a sprint triathlon. It only took me about 6 weeks to train for that, and not to knock on anyone that does the sprint, but it's nothing compared to the full Ironman or even the half Ironman within itself. Even the Olympic is a pretty good distance when you're first going out there and training. Now, the mistakes that I'll be going over come from real experience, from training, from putting myself out there. Jeez, if I could, if I could talk today. That again, these mistakes I'll be sharing with you, they've come from real experience between my strength training, between my running, and then all while being a dad to my 2-year-old daughter. Now, the first mistake I've made is treating strength and endurance training as equals every single week. And basically what happened was I'm trying to get stronger in the gym, and then I'm trying to do my long runs, especially when I was training for my marathon. So a long run during the marathon training might be 16, 18, 20 miles. Well, while right now my long run is anywhere from 7 to 10 miles that I do on a week just to stay in shape. And I found that I was just pushing my body too far. So if I could go back, and if I didn't have a race coming up, I would focus more on strength training and not as much running. If I could if I was training for the marathon again, I probably would have cut back more on my strength training sessions instead of trying to still continue to keep up with them, because I felt as though that I was being fatigued, I was encountering burnout, and I noticed that there would just be a general lack of progress in either discipline. And that's really not what I want you to experience. I want to keep excelling in running and lifting, but there's seasons where sometimes I might be in maintenance where I'm training for this marathon. I just want to keep my strength at the gym. And then there's times where I want to progress at the gym and I just want to maintain my running pace. So there's always really these seasons where sometimes I'm pushing myself in one avenue and then the next month I'm pushing myself in the other avenue, and it's just this flip flop. But if I try to push them both all at once, it's not going to be good in the end. Now, what I wish I had done differently, and I alluded to it a little bit, but was just focus on one activity, whether that's running, whether that's lifting. Right now, for me, it's lifting, and then just maintaining for running, doing the occasional speed workout here and there. Now, if I was training for more half marathons, if I had more races coming up, then I would be focusing more on running and maybe a little bit less on strength training. Now, the second mistake that I've made is neglecting recovery. So for me, it's been skipping sleep, and not that I make it sound like I'm awake throughout the entire night, but rather I just don't get good quality sleep. I only get 5 or 6 hours of sleep, not taking my recovery runs and treating them as recovery runs. And it's tricky. I mean, when you're doing a recovery run and you're running 11, 12 minutes, it's almost like you're just going a little bit faster than walking. And it can be challenging. So I wish I had done better on my recovery runs, and I wish I had done more stretching where I would just go out the door and I go out and run, I come back, and that's that. I've always stretched when it comes to strength training, but when it came to running, for some reason I wasn't doing as much stretching, and I found that especially stretching my back after a run, it just made a huge difference in my overall how my body felt. Now, what happened when I would skip out on my sleep for a few hours, or I would neglect my recovery runs, or I wouldn't do this mobility work, is I noticed that I would be more likely to plateau. I would encounter poor performance. My mood wouldn't be that great. I could be irritable, not enjoyable to be around it. And again, that's not what I want to be. I don't want to do all the strength training and this running and being a father and being a husband and then just to be irritable to be around all the time. That's not necessarily who I want to be. And what I wish I would change would be prioritizing, or not I wish I would change, what I changed was prioritizing sleep. I had active recovery and rest days, especially as a dad. I don't want to be exhausted all the time around my daughter where I'm just tired and it's hard to play with her. I want to make sure that I have full energy when she's home, and to make sure that I can take care of her and I can be there and I can play with her. Now, the third mistake is not tracking enough. And what I mean by that is, especially when it came to running, but was not taking any notes on how fast and how far I ran each day. Well, I could go in my Garmin, but there was no real progress to see, okay, am I getting faster? Am I getting slower? In the gym, I used to use a notebook, but now I have the notes section on my phone, and I'll go through and I'll write down exactly what I did for the lifts that day. Or I pretty much already have that there, and then I'll update it based on if I went up in weight and how many reps that I had done. Now, when it came to running and just not tracking it, I found that there was just be inconsistency, and it was hard to pinpoint exactly how much faster and stronger I was getting in my runs. Now, what really helped me is I used to use the a Fitbit watch, and once I changed over to Garmin, that really allowed me to track my runs better. I could go on, I could see I could just check how what my minute per mile pace is, And it helped me to understand, like, okay, I'm getting faster. What heart rate zone am I running in? Am I running too fast? And just it gave me a lot of data and a lot of information that I could use. And that really brings me into mistake number 4, which is going too hard and too often. This could be in the form of ego lifting, pushing my paces as fast as I could go, or comparing myself to others. So, ego lifting, for me, that could be wanting to go and squat 315. I found that once I got up to 285, like that's great. And honestly, I really enjoy going like 225 and going like 10 to 12 reps. That's plenty. I feel like I have full control. I'm not trying to hurt my back or hurt my legs and get injured. So there's that component of ego lifting. It was the pushing the pace daily where I'm going out there and I'm just running fast. I treat every run as fast as I can go. And eventually your legs aren't going to feel great. You're going to burn out on your runs. And the last piece is comparing myself to others. And it's easy because you go on social media, you see people that are more fit than you see people that are faster than you, stronger than you. But what I realized is that there's always someone that's going to be faster than you. There's always going to be someone that's slower than you. There's going to be someone that's stronger than you, and there's going to be someone that's a little bit weaker than you. So just understanding that allowed me to realize that there's no point in comparing myself. I am who I am. Yeah, it would be nice if I could run a 4-minute per mile pace, but running an 8-minute mile per pace, that might be awesome for some people. Some people that might be too slow. So it's all relative at the end of the day. But again, that mistake was just going too hard and too often. Now, the fifth mistake is just ignoring nutrition aspect. And for me, that meant poor fueling around workouts and underestimating the amount of carbs. So right now, I try to get in about 400 to 500 grams of carbs per day. So that could be in the form of sourdough, it could be in the form of apples and bananas and just pasta. And I found that I wouldn't feel properly before my workouts. I wouldn't feel properly after my workouts and in between. And it wasn't until I started working with a nutritionist that my eyes started to open up to the nutrition aspect of doing this hybrid training. And I like to think of it as I'm pushing myself mentally and physically every single day. I have to give my body the nutrients that it needs. And if I don't, like, what's the point of doing all of this? I'm never going to improve. I'm going to be exhausted. I'm going to be tired. And I don't want to like quit running and quit lifting, but if I'm not taking care of my body, over time it's just going to be breaking down. You could have poor recovery, and I want to recover the best that I can, so I'm ready to go for my next strength training session, for my next for my weightlifting strength training, obviously the same, my next running session. So I just made nutrition a priority, and for me, that was just planning when I'm going to be having my snacks, planning when I'm going to be having my carbs, when I'm going to be having my protein for my post-workout meals, and then over time, along with MyFitnessPal app, is when I go in and I plug everything in. You start to build out routines. Okay, I'm going to be eating this today. I'm going to be eating that tomorrow. And over time, you build out a routine. You know exactly, okay, here's how many calories I'm going to get. Here's what my protein intake is going to be for the day. So just making sure that you take care of your nutrition is it's just so imperative as a hybrid athlete. And the last mistake that I want to talk about is for those of us that are parents out there, but it's just lacking flexibility. For me, I'm very rigid in my schedule. I get up at the same time. I do the workouts on a specific day, eat this specific food. And I found that by having this rigid plan, it didn't take into account my daughter's schedule. And it could be frustration, it could be missing workouts. But now what I realize is like just having this flexibility. Okay, maybe I have to split up my runs. So maybe I'm doing a 6-mile run today, but I'm splitting it up. I'm doing one less set at the gym or 2 less sets, but I'm doing a 3-mile run at the gym. I'm doing a 3-mile run outside of the gym. I'm still running 6 miles. Yes, I'm not running them consecutively, but I'm trying to be flexible and work with the time that I have. Now, for me, again, it's just building flexibility. It's sometimes swapping on workout days. It's maybe training early or training late and just being flexible. And even if I don't have the full amount of time to get a run in or a lift in, something is better than nothing. So make sure that you have flexibility as a parent and just adjust your schedule as needed. And this isn't to say that you just quit working out and running altogether. It's more so just working with the time that you have. Now, I hope you enjoyed today's episode on hybrid training mistakes I've made and what I do differently. I hope you tune into next week's episode where I discuss how fitness builds mental toughness for fatherhood.